Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the HardBody Chronicle. Thanks for joining us. Uh, this podcast is brought to you in part by Papa's Apothecary. They make a lot of good stuff. It's run by my good friend Kevin, who's an herbalist at Abassier University, and got some products right here that I use all the time: yoga mat spray, beard oil, and he hooked it up with the hair oil recently, and I'm using that right now. So it's helps keep you looking fresh. You know what I'm saying? So that's important, especially in those Zoom calls nowadays. So yeah, let's get to it. First and foremost, I want to say I appreciate all the feedback on the past podcasts with the guests. Those were a lot of fun. Um, I'm hoping to do them more often, but it's kind of hard to get people together nowadays. But I got a lot of good feedback. I'm going to try to see about doing some more in the future. There's some people who've asked to be on it, but I don't want to get canceled just yet. So that's, I got to stagger them out so that I don't, you know, I don't want to go too hard right from the beginning. um, but yeah, but thanks to everyone who commented or reached out to me and said they enjoyed the guests. I've got an interesting group of friends and people that I know that I like to get on the podcast. So yeah, it's something I'm working on, and who knows, maybe the next time I do another Hard Body Chronicle, I'll have someone joining me. But yeah, also want to say trying to do a podcast is a lot of work. I think I've restarted this like 4 times because my equipment wasn't working correctly. Um, and I know it doesn't look like much, but there's a lot going on in the background that you have no idea about. So it's all good. With actually with it being a year of the pandemic already, I've just tried to keep the podcast going, just because it's a way for me to talk to people and just put out good vibes. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a lot of shit going on in the world. Like I said, it's the 1 year anniversary of the pandemic, COVID-19, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge all of those who've experienced loss because of the pandemic, whether it's losing your job, losing a family member, friends. I think we're all going through something. We've been touched by it at some point. So my heart goes out to all of you. Um, yeah, I mean it's just wild because it's kind of you can't even do anything really, right? I mean, I had an uncle who got COVID down in Mexico and he passed away, and it's just wild because I haven't even had a chance to go down there, and my family hasn't had a chance to go down there to see or even console the family in person, right? Like it's just like there's only so much we can do, even though there's all this death going around. It's just wild. So I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that, and like I said, my heart goes out to all of you. Um, everyone's going through some kind of hardship right now. Everyone's been touched by COVID in one way or another. It's kind of fucked up. But I wanted to at least say that I'm thinking about all of you, and I hope things improve. And I know we got a new president and all that, but this is a massive hole we got to dig ourselves out of one way or another. And new president's not really going to help much, unfortunately. But with the vaccine being more available um, across the country, I'm hoping that's kind of what's going to kickstart the recovery. I mean, it's going to take years to recover from this, but at least with the vaccine, we can kind of start that process. And the weird thing now is like everyone's kind of approaching it or chosen what side they want to be on when it comes to COVID. And I mean, we saw recently with Texas and Mississippi, they essentially got rid of their mask mandate. So, um, you know, you can't really enforce people to wear masks. Whenever they're walking out and about in the city and whatnot. And I mean, I'm not surprised Texas did it. or Mississippi. They're a little different down there sometimes. And I'm not one who likes being told what to do, but at the same time, you gotta make a little bit of a sacrifice for the greater good. And obviously, some people don't feel that way. But the problem is, I mean, as soon as I read that news article, I was just thinking, man, this shit's just gonna blow up. And later that weekend, I saw that there was a Mexican restaurant down in DFW, so Dallas Fort Worth area. Mexican restaurant was enforcing the mask mandate, just on their own, saying if you want to come in, you want to be a patron, wear a mask. And people weren't having it. I mean, they showed up and they threatened to call ICE on a Mexican restaurant. So just it's hard not to laugh just because how fucked up the nature of that is, right? Like, you just leave people and businesses to fend for themselves without any sort of regulation and no real way to enforce it and no punishment for not abiding by certain rules. You leave the people wide open to get into all kinds of shit, and that's what's going on. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. The stupid thing is, maybe lifting the mandate probably won't even increase the amount of people that get or die from COVID. And that's the funny thing, right? Like, the numbers are kind of consistent whether there's a lot of enforcement of certain things. It wasn't really until the vaccine was available that you kind of see a drop. Okay, finally, the numbers are going down. So, I don't know. Was all this sacrifice worth it? It's hard to say. It's probably going to take a while to kind of dig through that data and come up with an answer to that question. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, it's been a year of this shit. I think now that I'm reflecting on it, I'm still very blessed that I was able to keep my job and still work. And where I'm working at, we're still pretty busy providing a service to the general public. So I'm fortunate that I could keep my job, work from home for the most part, and go into the office whenever I need to. So I'm very blessed in that regard. I'm just thankful. Things could have been a lot worse, but they weren't yet. So knock on wood, I guess. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I've been at, just reflecting. I mean, I think I started this podcast right around the time when things started to shut down across the country, and I thought it would just be something interesting to do, kind of help build up my brand, so to speak. And I think I'm doing it. Like I said, it's going to take some time to get to where I need it to be, but just the fact that I'm still doing it, and I'm building a little bit of hype behind it, and then with the guests, that goes a long way. I mean, those are some of my most viewed episodes, and just going through the data that that each of those videos had, it was way more than I think it was just over across the board double what I normally do. So maybe just having two people is what I need to produce more content that people actually really want to see, aside from me just babbling about random shit that I just happen to stumble upon. But yeah, again, shout outs to Keith and Brent for stopping by. And like I said, hopefully I'm going to have more people stop by and join me at the House of HardBody. So, yeah, I mean, I think the only other thing that's kind of been on my mind lately is some good friends of mine are having a baby very soon, and they stopped by a few weeks ago with a care package and things of announcing that the baby's going to be born. And one of the things that was in that package was an advice card. And legit, it's been like next to my laptop this whole month, and I still haven't really thought of it's not that I haven't thought about what to do, but it kind of, for me, it hits home a little harder just because, some of you may or may not know, I was many years ago, I was in a relationship where we had a child um, that just kind of came out of nowhere, essentially. Without getting into too much detail, CPS called up one night and said, "Oh, here's your nephew." Yeah, and that started a whole nother um, situation and changed the dynamic of that relationship forever. So, yeah, so I guess I have a little bit of experience, not with my own children, but I was kind of placed in a situation where I had to deal with a very young child, and that shit was wild. Kids are no joke. I mean, they're great, but it's they'll definitely catch you off guard. And like this whole month, I've been thinking of like, I've had the card here for me to write in and fill it out next to my laptop, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get to it, but I honestly haven't a chance. So I'm sorry. We'll get to it soon. But I kind of wanted to just talk about that for a little bit, just because, um, honestly, my life has been blessed. I can't really complain about anything. Just everything, just whether by hook or by crook, it's just kind of fallen into place where I needed it to be. Um, it could be luck. It could be kind of just preparing. I don't know what it is, but I've been very blessed, and I think um, a lot of that positive influence in my life to help me get to where I needed to be was a good, solid set of parents, and um, I'll never be able to thank my parents enough for everything they've done for me, but um, they did a good job, I would like to say, and I'm very grateful that they were my parents, right? Sometimes you can't pick your parents. Sometimes you get dealt a shitty hand, absentee parents, parents that just have issues that they just can never resolve, and they kind of, creates this whole dynamic where it's just a cycle of shit a lot of the times, right? Like it's hard to get out of that, and thankfully for me, um, I was blessed that I never had to deal with that kind of thing, and it's gotten me very far. And I'm a fucking idiot. I'm not smart. I can get by, but that's about it. And I've gotten by very well. And yeah, that's just really just to having a solid um, foundation, family foundation, and having that network that's always kind of had my back, regardless of how many times I've messed up or maybe made a bad decision here and there. They've always had my back, and that goes a long way. And I'm just kind of thinking about, I was kind of asking myself questions like, um, what is it that I appreciated about my parents? And one of the main things was for me was that they never really had any crazy, unreasonable expectations for me. At least the way that was kind of how I interpreted it. They had a very reasonable set of expectations that they wanted me to do. One was obviously, and probably the most important, was just get my education and take that as far as I could. So, aside from that, really, it was just behave, don't do stupid shit. Like I got an understanding of that fairly early in my childhood. Like I was always very quiet and awkward, but I knew what was going on. I was always aware. I was always listening, and I was always analyzing whatever environment I was in. And um, I think my parents kind of knew that, and they accepted some of my quirks and my awkwardness. So they just kind of let me be myself. And I come to think of it, that's kind of one of the things I really appreciated about them, in that they let me be, and they let me kind of grow into whatever it is that I was going to grow into. I wasn't made to really do sports, or I wasn't held to like ridiculous standards that a lot of kids are held to sometimes. Um, so because of that, I felt the need to just kind of follow through with a lot of the shit that they just asked me. And one of those again was just being educated taking that as far as I could. You know, being careful with my money. Um, hanging out with, not hanging out with the wrong crowd, that kind of thing. Um, and it's gotten me very far, and I've done very well in life just because of those things that were in place. And um, I don't know what I would have done, right? Like maybe I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be as successful as I have been if it wasn't for my parents. Like I owe them. I think I owe them a lot because they afforded me that stability to kind of grow into the person that I'm supposed to be. I guess maybe that's one way to to look at it. But yeah, I was never really. I think for me, one of the big things was that I wasn't forced into very much. Like I was told to do certain things just because it was to. Like I figured, I understood where my parents were coming from a lot of the time, and that they just wanted me to be exposed to a lot of different things. Not necessarily, do all of them well, but they definitely encouraged me to just kind of put myself out there, whether I wanted to or not. But they let me experience things, and then if I liked it, I would pursue it, but they wouldn't push it, right? Because they gave me that freedom to make choices on my own, and that's something that I think is I think in terms of character development worked out really well for me because like I said, I was allowed to just be myself, and I wasn't pushed to be a fucking sports star or whatever. It was just kind of whatever I thought was whatever I thought was cool or I was into, and as long as my friends were cool and all that, and had similar goals and mindsets, then it was all good. And I mean, I can't stress it enough how blessed I am because of what my parents did and what the foundation they laid for me to kind of build on on myself, and not just for me, but also for my sister. So I think we're both very similar, and we both, for the most part, turned out very level-headed and uh, productive members of society. So yeah, and kind of looping back to what I was saying with that relationship where I ended up with a kid. I kind of try to mimic what my parents did, and it was it was challenging at first because it took a while to kind of establish myself and establish my role in that dynamic, I guess, that was kind of placed upon us at the time. And but after a while, it kind of stuck, and I think the kid at that time started to realize that, oh, you know what, man, this guy is actually looking out for me. So there was kind of I managed to set a certain understanding between me and the child that you're not gonna like run wild over me, but at the same time, I'm not here to be an asshole, right? I'm here to actually nurture you and take care of you and let you grow into whatever it is that person that you're going to be, and just kind of guide you along the way, not necessarily tell you exactly what you need to do, but that's kind of what I was doing for a few years, and it worked out well. But um, ultimately, that relationship didn't pan out. But with stuff that I learned in those years, I'm gonna carry that for the rest of my life, and I think it's given me maybe a preview of things to come. If I were to ever have kids, I have kind of the leg up, so to speak, in that I've had to deal with a lot of craziness, and I can manage it, and it wouldn't be a brand new thing to me. So again, um, get to the parents takes you so far, and I'm so blessed, and that I've had was able to experience that growing up. So yeah, shout out to you guys. I'm not gonna say your names because I don't know how they like to keep things private. So I'm not gonna just say who it is. But um, if you're watching, I wish you nothing but the best. I hope everything goes smoothly. I hope this is everything that you wanted um, for you and your partner, and it's gonna be fun because I think a lot of people in our friends group, they're getting to that age where they're having kids, and it's kind of fun to experience those things with other parents that are going through that stuff. Maybe not me necessarily, but I see the beauty in all of that, and I definitely appreciate it, especially when it's good people um, that happen to match up and build families, and that's always good to see, and it's just nice. It's just nice to see how things start out, and whatever comes from there. I'm sure it's gonna be great, and just keep the families growing. It's nice to see that, and yeah, it's just nice. That's really all I can say about that. I don't think I'm there yet, but all you with kids and all that, it's great seeing what you're doing and seeing your kids grow up. It's always like, oh shit, now they're this tall. It's like, man, I remember when you were like this big. So it's always wild. So yeah, shout out to you guys. So let's see what else. Not much else for this podcast. I just wanted to really, I'm testing out some equipment. I don't know if you guys are even going to notice the differences, but I don't even know. Yeah. I'm really trying to improve the quality of this podcast. It takes a lot of work, man. That's all I'm going to say. But anyways, we had a wild ass pay-per-view. UFC 259 took place over the weekend. It was wild because they had 3 title fights for the main card. And I'll go through them, but there was one main event or main card fight that really stood out to me, and that was Islam Makhachev versus Drew Dober. And Islam is like a mini Khabib. He has the exact same style, and low single leg takedowns, getting in side control, and just kind of ground you out. That's what he's gonna do, and he did that. And the way he finished, I think it was in the third round. He did a arm triangle choke from the opposite side. So he got it on one side, but he was supposed to move his body to be on the same side as the arm triangle. But he just fucking reached out, grabbed the arm and the neck, cinched it up, and he tapped. So that's super impressive. Like, I could do that on a kid, but I cannot do that on a full-grown adult. So, yeah, that'll be something to keep an eye out. Just he's a mini Khabib, and Habib was actually in his corner, just chilling. They made no mention of him fighting or anything like that, but he was in the corner. So we'll see how that guy does. I think he's probably maybe like 2 to 3 fights, and he's probably due a title shot. So we'll see. But bantamweight fight. That was weird because it was Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. Peter Yan is this crazy Russian dude. I think he's Russian. But anyways, Peter Yan was winning the whole fight. And it wasn't until the 4th round, somehow Aljamain Sterling ended up grounded. So he was, a knee on the ground, a hand on the ground, I believe. And he was just kind of like keeping him away because he was tired, and I think Peter Yan was going, maybe trying to take him down or keep him down, like shuck him down, head and arm control. But anyways, Peter Yan kneed him in the fucking head, and it's an illegal blow. But I guess he asked his corner, "Hey, can I kick him?" Corner said yes, but this dude threw a fucking knee, so that's not a kick. So I don't know what happened. Anyways, Aljamain Sterling was kind of concussed and couldn't finish. So the rule is if you can't finish, if there's a foul and the fighter who's got fouled can't finish, they win. And so Aljamain Sterling pretty much got KO'd but won the belt. I don't think I'd ever seen that before. I think it happened. Well, it was close. I think there was a John Jones fight where I think he fought, was it Anthony Smith? Where Anthony Smith, I think, took a knee. He was grounded, took a knee, and, all credit to to that dude. He said he can continue, so they continued the fight, but it was pretty much over. John Jones finished him after that, and um, yeah, so you could have won the belt, but you chose to continue, so you ended up losing that fight. So this is the first time this has happened where you get DQ'd and the guy gets a belt. So um, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think for casual fans, they're like, "What the fuck?" But for me, it was interesting. I don't think I'd ever seen that like in a large organization before. So yeah, don't knee someone in the fourth round when you're winning, or knee them when they're grounded. So um, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm sure there's gonna be a rematch or something. But then the fight after that was Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson. That was for was it women's featherweight. So Amanda Nunes is a featherweight champ and the bantamweight champ for women. And um, yeah, it didn't last very long. It was like 2 minutes, and Amanda Nunes just fucking destroyed her. And yeah, got her to the ground. It was a triangle, like a weird one from the back, and it's good enough. So wasn't even a contest. So I don't really know who's gonna fight Amanda Nunes or anything. She's probably the goat from here on out. And then another interesting fight was light heavyweight championship. Jan Blachowicz versus Israel Adesanya. Now this is different from a lot of fights where it's champ versus champ. Jan is the light heavyweight champ, and Israel is the middleweight champ. So Izzy went up in weight. Usually guys go down in weight, so champs will go down in weight, and then they kind of have an advantage because they're kind of bigger already than for the most part. But Izzy's a fucking fool, and he went up in weight without actually being that big. So he was undersized, and it was kind of back and forth. But then Jan started picking it up, and in the last 2 rounds, he managed to take down Izzy and just pound him out, and it went to a decision all 5 rounds. But um, one thing I didn't know, Izzy was the favorite, so I always find this shit out way too late. Like I would have definitely put money on Jan to win that fight. It's just too much. Like what ends up happening is, I think it's a critique. It's a valid critique of MMA nowadays. Everyone's so good, so it makes the sport very sterile because everyone's just kind of like things just cancel out. Like you know, we all know how to defend arm bars nowadays, and so it's like, pro level fighters in the UFC, no matter what their rank is, they're good. Like it's just those are world class fighters, and so they've seen everything. By the time they get to the UFC, they've done the rounds, they've encountered all kinds of body types and whatnot. But here, because they're so good, if someone, if they're both equal in skill, but one dude has 20, 30 pounds on you, the guy who's heavy is going to win. There's just no way around it. You have to be like super lucky or random to pull that off. So that's exactly what happened. Why Izzy was favored, I don't know. Maybe it was some kind of fuckery by um, by the betting sites, but still, no, I really should have put money on that. You could have made a little bit back, but so we'll see. This Jan looks good because he beat Izzy, and Izzy doesn't lose much by losing to a guy who's that good. I mean, he went up in weight, so I think he's still going to be just as polarizing as he's always been, and he's still going to be a draw regardless of this loss. So we'll see. But yeah, so that's about everything I got this week. Like I said, I'm just trying to keep this thing going, try to get some more guests on here. Thanks to all of you for tuning in, and blessings to all of you. And I'll catch you next time.